In our larger Catechism meditation, we are looking at questions numbers 131 and 132, which read as follows. What are the duties of equals? The answer is that the duties of equals are to regard the dignity and worth of each other, in giving honor, to go one before another, and to rejoice in each other's gifts and advancement as their own. Question 132. What are the sins of equals? The sins of equals are, besides the neglect of the duties required, the undervaluing of the worth, envying the gifts, grieving at the advancement or prosperity one of another, and usurping preeminence one over another. One might not have thought that in meditating on the command to honor your father and mother that so much would be involved in it. Considering our duties to superiors, the responsibilities that superiors have to those who are beneath them, and now we consider the responsibilities that we have towards one another. Whether we are superiors responding to each other, inferiors responding to each other, or all together as members of Christ's body, we still have mutual obligations. The Apostle Paul reminds us that in Christ, there's neither male nor female, rich nor poor, Gentile or Jew. We are all one in Christ. Christ is the one who levels the playing field, if you will. He places us all before God. It's His righteousness that covers us. It's His grace that sustains us. We are all united in Christ. And so we all should have a love and regard for each other. And so we consider those responsibilities that we have mutually towards one another here, the responsibilities of those who are equal in a similar station in life or position in life. And chiefly, the Catechism first speaks of the positive responsibilities we have. We are to regard the dignity and worth of each other. We ought to have a high regard for each other's gifts and abilities, speak favorably of one another, not look down on the other person because of certain inadequacies that they might have, but rejoice in each other, give honor to one another, respect each other in the way that God has blessed each one. Rejoice in the other's gifts, recognize that some have gifts that you don't have, and they too may not have the gifts that you have. And you should minister to each other, rejoicing in each other and seeking each other's advancement, even as though it was your own. At the same time, while we have a mutual responsibility towards each other, we should also avoid the kinds of things that promote sin within the congregation or within the community. Those kinds of things would include undervaluing the worth, envying the gifts, grieving at the advancement or prosperity of one another. We so much need to hear this today when there is an envy of those who prosper or a desire to have what they own, to possess. We need to be those who are careful, gracious, considerate of others, and rejoicing in what God has provided for each one. And so don't grieve at the advancement or prosperity of another. You may be in a work situation where your partner advances in the company before you. And sometimes that might be hard to accept because you might feel that you ought to have had that opportunity yourself. But our responsibility is to rejoice in each other and rejoice in the way that people advance in life and regard that as God's will in that situation. Never usurp the preeminence one over another. That is to put yourself in a position that belongs to somebody else. Rather to recognize God's good grace in each one. In this way, as we observe these kinds of mutual responsibilities, we show the unity of Christ and His church. You're called to be one. You're called to love one another, to prefer one another in love. And so, as those who are believers in Christ, whether it is within the home environment, children being careful for each other, husbands and wives being careful for each other, within the church, members being careful for each other, we are showing forth the love of Christ, preferring each other, looking out for each other's well-being and best interests, and rejoicing in the way that each one advances in their Christian faith in the Christian service in